Okay, Dale, the meeting is live, so you and Ashley can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, I think we have a quorum, but I think we'll give it a couple minutes to see if we get a couple more.
Hey, Dale, Purnell's joining right now. I was just on the phone with him.
Good. That helps.
He'll be joining right now.
As soon as the council president is with us, we'll begin.
Andrea?
Hi, Nan. Welcome.
Oh, good to see you.
I have a vendor.
Hi, Chantel.
I have a vendor that's in a waiting room right now, waiting to join the call. His name is Scott Maurer from AT&T.
Hey, it's Janine. I don't see anyone in the waiting room.
Hey, Janine, this is Scott. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Am I correct? We're still waiting on Council President Jones?
No, I am here.
You're here. Good. Okay. Welcome. Great. In that case, I would like to call the meeting for January 25th, 2021 of the Finance and Budgeting Committee to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
On the roll, Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Tuma,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Strawn,
Here.
Ms. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Great. We have 100% attendance, an excellent start for the first Finance and Budgeting Committee meeting of 2021. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Has anybody sent us any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one submitted any public comment.
Thank you very much. And item number 4 is approval of the minutes from November 30th, 2020. Do I have a motion relative to those minutes?
So move, Brown. Second.
Sharon.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilman Strawn and others to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the minutes are approved as presented. And we have one legislative matter referred to the committee, and that is Resolution 2021-0026. And I would like to ask Ashley to please read that item into the record.
Resolution number 2021-0026, making an award on requisition number 47474 to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $2 million for session initiation protocol services and the replacement of 2 individual circuits on the Cisco infrastructure in connection with wide area network in telecommunications for the period July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2025.
Thank you very much. That item is now before us, and I'm going to call upon Andy Moles from Department of IT to present the item on behalf of the administration.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. Andy Moles, Deputy Chief Technology Officer for Department of IT. This is going to be, I'm going to take a stab and try to break this up in 3 phases. First of all, I want to basically explain what this is, services render and what they are. The session protocol, or SIP, as the acronym states, is basically our dial tone for the county. All agencies, these are circuits that hook up to our current voice platform that provides all of the dialing in and out, inbound, outbound, for all the agencies that are currently using that service. So it's extremely important, to be able to make phone calls and do business with our residents. So that's the description. If you have any questions in regards to that, I'm willing to answer those questions if you have any concerns about my explanation of what that services are or is. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the cost. And I'll save the important one for the last, but the costs in general, we had this service 5 years ago, our previous contract. It was actually $2.4 million that we started with. Part of what we're going to get into is why it was late. It was a lot of negotiation on part of myself and my staff with AT&T to get services a little bit better and improved, and some advanced technologies that will go along with our disaster recovery that we're going to be doing, hopefully towards the second quarter, third quarter of this year. So one of the things that, again, we brought down, it was 2.4, the first contract, the current contract is $2 million. So it's $400,000 savings to the county in general. And that's with the additional advanced services that we are going to use for DR. The biggest thing that I'm sure everyone on this call is concerned about is why it's late. This was an RFP process that we started back in actually 12/6 of 2019. I can give you guys a complete rundown of the timelines, but it was officially awarded to AT&T. They were the only vendor that bid on the RFP at the time. Things were officially closed January 2020. We did do an amendment prior to that to extend it to 6/30 of 2020, giving us enough time to do the RFP. So we completed the RFP. AT&T was awarded the RFP, and of course, negotiations and contracts were starting to be looked at and negotiated throughout the course. It took a lot of time. We had law involved looking over the contracts. We submitted them on time. The vendor, and I'll let AT&T kind of speak on their behalf, but we were following the proper process of submitting the paperwork and getting it in. There were some negotiations and some contractual language that needed to be changed, which caused some delay as well. But it continued on as paperwork proceeded to go back and forth between legal and AT&T. It became prolonged. And by the time we got all the paperwork back and all the signed contracts that needed to be signed, plus on top of that, the vendor, because of ERP and Infor, we had to, because of the new contract registration, AT&T had to then take time to go through that process, register their company with our new process and new forms. You know, I stood in front of you a long time ago and I promised that I'd never have a late contract. I took pride in that and I didn't want that to happen. When I stated that a year ago and this came up, I just wanted to let everyone know. I think from the county perspective, we tried our best to get everything in and quickly and expedited as quickly as possible in process. So I apologize. Nobody wants a late contract. I don't want a late contract. The other part of that is we all know, I think COVID hit, and that may have caused a lot of, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the vendor, but I think that may have caused some distress on their side as well. So that's what we have. We're looking for a starting date of 7/1/2020 and a 5-year contract for June 30th, 2025. And I really appreciate your consideration on this and understanding. If you have questions, like I said, I do have our vendor from AT&T on to support his side of this process as well.
Thank you very much, Director. And I'm going to ask now if Scott Maurer from AT&T has anything that he would like to add.
And thank you for an opportunity to speak here. The only thing I would just add to what Andy said is with all good faith in January and February of last year, both his team and our team were fully engaged with our sites on execution in a timely fashion. And of course, March hit and things changed. And I don't want to lean on that as an excuse, but it certainly was a year for the ages, and it certainly put a lot of challenges on all of us, including us here at AT&T. As you might imagine, the world moved from a walking into brick and mortar to do their daily duties, whatever that may be, and whatever industry that may be. And March caused the entire globe to reallocate, relocate, and push all their resources into a remote type environment. And AT&T was heavily leveraged by every company on the planet, as well as federal government all the way down to state and local, to support them in their initiative to relocate their workforce. The same time, we were relocating over 200,000 employees ourselves. So it was a challenging year. Andy and his team, again, in January, February, all things looked according to Hoyle, and the sun was bright. And in March, things changed.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. And I'm now going to ask if there are any questions from my colleagues.
I have a question, Chair.
Councilwoman Baker.
2 questions. One is with the negotiations that Andy mentioned before we even got into the process of putting it through the county system, but the negotiations that took place at the beginning, this is a continuing contract or a continuation of what we've already done with AT&T. What were the negotiations that seemed to go on longer than anticipated? Is this amount of money the same as before? Is it more? Is there more included in this contract? What were the negotiations that took place that extended the time?
I think, Councilwoman Baker, I think one of the things that we looked at was this is, there are multiple services that are part of these circuits. I tried to stay away from the technical side, but there are different services that are actually ride on these voice circuits that we wanted to make sure that we were getting the best price, as well as making sure that we were planning ahead of time proactively for disaster recovery, because we all know that if something does happen to our current data center that we have our hardware in, that we could make sure that the county agencies have voice. So it was a negotiation of all these three separate services. One of them is our security. The other is a kind of a access layer, without going into great detail. And there was another service involved with that as well. So each one of these brings together the total cost. And I wanted to make sure that we were going to have our security improved upon. We applied circuits that will be given, or that technology given to our DR site as well. So it took a little time to kind of go through each one of these services to make sure that we were getting what we paid for.
May I ask what the difference in price is to obtain those three services, different than what we had in the last contract?
Altogether, the savings is $400,000.
So we saved 400,000 adding new features?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good to know. And second question, Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. The 7/1/2020 beginning date up till now, has AT&T been receiving funds, or are they waiting for their first check?
They're waiting for their first check.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Are there other questions by my colleagues? I have one question, and my question is are we talking about more traditional services here as opposed to voice over internet protocol service?
Yes, I mean, when I say access layer, and Scott could probably be a little bit more descriptive in terminology, but above and beyond the regular access of just picking up a telephone and getting dial tone and going inbound and outbound, we have a service called, it's basically denial of service, where people cannot break into our circuits. And the terminology back in the day, a long time ago, was cramming. We had an incident probably 4 or 5 years ago where the vendor, not AT&T, the vendor that we had previously did not have that security feature on that. And somebody was they broke into the circuits and they ran up international long distance calling on that, which I think totaled like maybe $50,000, $60,000. That was, it's long gone and we've taken care of it, but we never wanted that to happen to the county again. So with AT&T, they provide a third-party service that will stop any denial of service or anybody trying to cram old terminology calls illegally without our knowledge.
Okay. Last call. Any other questions by my colleagues? Hearing none, this item is on the agenda for tomorrow for second reading suspension if it's so approved by this committee. So I would like to ask if there's a motion to recommend resolution 26 to the full council for second reading suspension.
I'll make that approval, Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second
it.
Brown.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilwoman Baker and seconded by Councilwoman Brown to recommend 2021-0026 to the full council with recommendation to leadership for second reading suspension, and it would be on tomorrow's agenda for approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none, All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The resolution is recommended to the full council for tomorrow's council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time, as always.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda, just a couple things regarding planning for the Finance and Budgeting Committee for 2021. And this should only take a few minutes, but I have a couple of things I'd like to bring to the committee's attention. First of all, I sent around an email last week, and just so that we have our eyes on the biggest things that are going to be affecting the county's finances over the next few years, I put together a list of the things that are on the horizon that are going to cost the county a lot of money. I'm talking tens of millions of dollars, and on that list I had the new jail, the new justice center, the diversion center, the question about the proposed realignment of the medical mart as part of the convention center. Also, there's the question of the extension of the lease for the Cleveland Indians, which is currently under negotiation. Then we have multiple lawsuits. We have lawsuits involving the jail. We have lawsuits involving DCFS. We have a major property tax case, and there are probably a couple of others as well. So these things are on our horizon, and if anyone has things to add to that list, they can add to that list as well. So that's that. Another item is that I would like to bring to everybody on the committee's attention about the fiscal agenda, which is the resolution that we consider at almost every council meeting, which contains a list of updates to the current biennial budget. And normally the draft of this legislation is circulated to all members of council about a week before the council meeting. And when this comes out, I take a look at what's being proposed, and I put forward any questions that I have to Trevor McAleer, and he adds his own questions, and they get submitted to Director Parfiowitz at Budget and Management, and we get responses to our questions. But I would just encourage my colleagues on the Finance Committee that more than one or two sets of eyes are good. So I would encourage any of you, when that fiscal agenda comes out, to take a look at it. If there's items that you have questions about, please forward the questions to Trevor, and he will send them on to the administration. So that's the fiscal agenda. I would just like to mention a few of the things that we're going to be dealing with in this committee over the course of the year. First of all, there's the continuing oversight of the ERP and the Harris installations, which we're going to have to continue to do throughout the year and beyond. And our next set of meetings in this regard are going to be next week with the presentation from from the administration coming on our regular time on Monday at 1 o'clock, and the presentation from our consultant Zig Berzens will be the following Thursday, also at 1 o'clock. And in the past, we've done the administration presentation and finance and budget and the presentation from Zig and committee of the whole. But we've reconsidered that and don't feel that doing those differently makes sense. So going forward, it's all going to be done in finance and budget committee. But of course, all members of council are welcome to attend any of these presentations. Also, I think that it probably would be a good time to ask the administration to come to us and give us a status report on the county's current overall debt situation and our bonding capacity, just to get a sense of where we are going forward in terms of debt capacity. So I'm going to be asking the administration to do that in the coming weeks. In addition to that, we have the quarterly reviews of the county's finances when the quarterly reports come out. And also, this is the year where we have the biennial budget for 2022 and 2023, which will be done in the fourth quarter, October through December. So that's kind of the big picture as to what we have on our plate in this committee going forward. And so I would just invite any comments, questions, or suggestions that any of my colleagues might have.
Chair, I have one question.
Yes.
On the change of format where we have a presentation from the administration on the ERP and then Zig to follow, usually the following Thursday, I heard you say you're going to bring both those entities together so they speak at the same meeting. Is that what I heard?
To Ms. Baker, no, that is not correct.
Okay.
They're going to continue to be done separately.
Oh,
And the administration presentation is on Monday and Zig's presentation is on Thursday.
I understand.
The only thing that's going to be different is that in the past, the presentations by Zig were done in the committee of the whole.
Okay.
But going forward, we're not going to do those in the committee of the whole. We're going to do those in finance and budget committee. So that both presentations will be in the same committee.
Hmm.
So that's the only change on that.
Okay. May I ask what the thought process was for that? Why not have committee of the whole have an understanding of what the consultant is giving us in his overview? I know that it's more people than finance, but
The thought process is that that there's been somewhat of an interplay from time to time, as you know, between what the administration presents and the responses that we get from Zig Berzens. And we thought that perhaps it didn't make sense to have a different audience for one as opposed to the other, so that it would be the same group that was hearing from both. But of course, I would just say again that that anybody who's not on finance and budget is perfectly willing, perfectly welcome to attend the administration presentation, to attend Zig's presentation, but we thought that it didn't make sense to have it set up to be a different audience for the two presentations.
okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh. Okay. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? Okay, well, I appreciate having all of you on Finance Committee and look forward to working with all of you during the coming year. And we will next go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the miscellaneous business. I don't have any miscellaneous business. I covered it during the previous little section. Does anyone else have any miscellaneous business?
Not related to finance, but I think they're interconnected. The Economic Development Committee will meet at 3:00. I know that the break is a little bit longer than we thought between the two meetings, but would welcome all my colleagues to join us. I think you're going to find it very informative. There was a desire to have an extended update on the sector partnership, and I did send a little informational update to everybody, and I hope that you feel welcome, whether you're on economic development or not. I think you'll find the sector partnership conversations are very, very exciting and rewarding, refreshing also about where it's going.
Thank you very much, Councilman Tron, for bringing that up. I think that's very important work, and I definitely plan to be at that meeting this afternoon, and I would encourage any of my colleagues to do so as well. It's not only relevant to finance and budget, but it's also relevant to economic development, and it's also relevant to the very important work we're doing on equity and inclusion. Anything else? Hearing none, thank you very much for your time and attention, and with nothing more standing before this committee, we are adjourned.
Hope to see you at 3:00.